This province's date with democratic destiny is rapidly approaching. On June 2nd, the votes cast by eligible Ontarians in the 43rd general election will be counted. Elections Ontario is responsible for ensuring it all happens without a hitch. And with that, we welcome the Chief Electoral Officer for Elections Ontario, Greg Essensa. We welcome him back to our airwaves for an update. Greg, good to see you again. How are you managing these days?
Very good. Good to see you as well, Steve.
Well, the election may be on the 2nd of June, but I got a feeling you guys, you start your work well before the 2nd of June, I'm guessing. When do you actually start your work that culminates with Election Day?
We actually start our work for the next election relatively immediately after the first election in 2018. So when all the materials come back to us at Elections Ontario, we actually begin. We go through all the materials, we do an assessment, we start doing all of our debriefs with everyone, every stakeholder group imaginable, candidates, winning candidates, losing candidates, parties, stakeholder groups, accessibility groups. By the fall of 2019, we actually had identified the 13 areas that we were intending to make improvements on. And by the fall of 2019, we actually had a footprint. We knew exactly what the election was going to look like in 2022. We had determined the areas we were going to improve upon. I had given authorities and direction to begin that. And then, of course, March 2020 hit, and we had to effectively re-establish and look at every aspect of the election again. And we've been doing that over the last 2 years to get ourselves ready for this coming June.
Now, I'm not going to make you go through all 13 areas that you thought needed improving, but take one or two. What did you learn from last time that you needed to improve on for this time?
Well, it was also in relationship to what we saw with impacts of COVID. So a perfect example was voting locations, capacity limits. We might have had a Legion Hall in rural Ontario that perhaps had 1,200 eligible electors with a 50 to 60% turnout. We knew that 750 of them were going to come and vote during the day, of which 400 were going to come sometime between that busy time, between 3:30 and 7:30. And in that Legion Hall, because of its size, likely they were going to be standing cheek to jowl, shoulder to shoulder, and they were going to be probably quite comfortable in normal times with that. Now, with COVID, we had to ensure that we could have physical distancing in that poll. It now meant we had to reassess that actual voting location. We could only likely put maybe 700 eligible electors there. And we had to determine what we were going to do with the additional 500. Could we find another polling location within that subdivision? Maybe yes, maybe no. Would we have to move those 500 to some of the neighboring polling divisions? So it really meant we had to reassess virtually every aspect of the election and redetermine, what we were going to do, how we were going to change our policies and our procedures, and what contingency plans we were going to build in case we saw a greater outbreak of COVID, during the electoral event.
Do you have either empirical evidence or even anecdotal evidence that suggests people are prepared to wait X number of minutes to vote, but once you get past that X, they just take off and they leave? Do you know what that number is?
We know that, for the most part, we try to establish a polling day and a polling process that get people in and out as quickly as possible. We do know, though, if we get past 7 to 10 minutes, that people will then become a little frustrated, and unfortunately some might walk away from that. But for the most part, what we've really strived to do is to ensure that every Ontarian knows where, when, and how they need to do to vote. And the most important element of that is really ensuring that we can get them that voter information card. Because if we get them that card, it tells them all their voting options. It tells them when their advance polls are, when their election day poll is. But the most important element of that is when they walk into one of our polls with that card and one piece of identification, their voting process actually is easy. And we can efficiently service them, get them in and out as quickly as possible, and make their voting experience an easy one, and one where they can be assured that their vote has been cast with a lot of integrity. There's transparency in the process, and the result that we announce on election night will reflect the will of the people.
I want to find out more about the we, as in you guys. As in, you need people to staff polls, you need people to enumerate voters, you need people to make sure the parties are registered, and I mean, there's just legion. It's a long to-do list. How many people does it take to put on an election in this province?
Currently, we're estimating we need approximately 55,000 Ontarians to come out and work for us during the electoral process. And I would encourage anyone listening to this, if they can give us a day, if they can give us more than a day, please come to our website at elections.on.ca, fill out an application, and I'm quite certain we'll have an opportunity for you. But yes, it does take a small army to ensure that we can service the 10.6 million Ontarians who, likely will come to vote during the electoral process. And we want to ensure that the process is efficient, secure, and one that has the confidence of Ontarians that we ensure meets all of those covenants of our democracy.
And what does it cost to put on a provincial general election?
Currently, this election, we're estimating is going to be about 158 million and 700,000. It is an increase from 2018. There's a number of additional costs we have. Certainly, COVID has increased the cost. We have more voting locations, likely more staff, more materials that we've had to procure, certainly on PPE equipment. And certainly the cost of a number of items have gone up quite substantively over the last year and a half.
Now, I'm not sure if the rules are different between federal, provincial, and municipal elections, but on the chance that they are, let's just nail this down right now. Who's eligible to vote in this election?
So any Ontarian who is a Canadian citizen, 18 years of age or above, and a resident of Ontario is eligible to vote. And those criteria are the same federally and municipally. It's the one constant between all three levels of government is the actual eligibility criteria to vote in our country and province.
So being an owner of property is not enough?
No, you just need to be a resident here in Ontario. You don't have to be an owner. You can be a tenant, and as long as you're a Canadian citizen above the age of 18 and a resident of Ontario, you're eligible to vote.
Well, that's what I mean. Like if you're a resident alien, but you own property, that's not good enough. You got to be a citizen.
You have to be a citizen. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk about what's different this time around compared to 2018. Lots more advanced polls, I gather, this time around. What do you got on offer?
So this election, the legislation has been changed. I had written to the legislature advocating that, to help spread the curve of voting, it would be beneficial to us to move from 5 days to 10 days. The legislature did make that amendment. So now we have 10 days of advanced voting from May 19th to May 28th. What I'm excited about in the changes to the legislation is what it allows. It allows the local returning officer to, within that 10 days, potentially to move a poll for 3 or 4 days in one community, 4 or 5 days in another community. This is really valuable, especially in the ridings that are large geographically, and where we have population bases that are sparsely distributed within the riding. It ensures that Ontarians hopefully will have a location that is close to them, might be available for 3 or 4 days during that 10-day period, but it will negate having them to travel an extensively long period or long distance to get to a centralized location. So we're quite excited that this will provide greater opportunity and greater flexibility for Ontarians to choose when and where they exercise their right to vote.
I'll make a little confession here. I never vote in the advance polls. I always vote, but I always vote Election Day. There's something to me kind of cool about Election Day. But I gather you don't want everybody just showing up on Election Day. You need people to vote in the advance polls. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think certainly from a health-related perspective, we're trying to help spread that curve of voting to ensure that, we don't have lineups, that we don't incur that. Traditionally, Ontarians, I can tell you over time, traditionally 85 to 90% of Ontarians vote on Election Day in their home poll. And that has been the case for the last 70 to 80 years. It's always been that case. So for this election, we're hoping that more Ontarians will choose one of the other channels. There are multiple channels an Ontarian has to be able to exercise their right to vote. But we're just looking to help, ensure that we can spread that curve to mitigate any long lineups that might present a health risk to any Ontarian who's coming to vote.
Is there any evidence that if you actually give people more advance polling days on which to vote, they will take you up on that?
We have seen an increase right across the country, actually, of early voting. Certainly federally, this last election, they increased the number of days and they had a substantive, I think it was a 21% increase in advance voting. Some of the provincial bodies that ran elections early during COVID, particularly in BC and Saskatchewan, they saw substantive increases in early voting. Both had increased the number of days. So there is empirical evidence across the country. What's really not unknown, or a little unknown, is how Ontarians will take this up. As I said previously, traditionally, most Ontarians still vote on Election Day, but we're hoping that with the greater opportunities that are available to them, that they'll take up some of these additional channels.
I mean, please tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I've never thought the issue was a question of accessibility and enough days before Election Day to vote. I've always thought that more people don't vote because A, they don't like the leaders. B, they don't like the platform. C, they don't like all the mishigas surrounding politics, and that's why they don't vote. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you know, Steve, my role as chief electoral officer is to ensure every Ontarian knows where, when, how, and how to exercise their right to vote. We put on this event, and you know, I would hope all 10.7 million Ontarians exercise their right to vote and come out and participate. But ultimately, in our great democracy, you know, choice is at the forefront for the elector themselves. They get to choose when and where, or if they want to vote. And from my perspective, there's lots of rationale that goes into why they do or don't vote. But my role as chief electoral officer is to ensure we provide as much opportunity and as much information as possible to every Ontarian so they can make an informed choice of how they want to participate.
Can Elections Ontario do anything about getting politicians to behave better or make more responsible promises, which might encourage more people to vote?
Well, my role is clearly to ensure that
I'm being a little facetious with that.
I know you are. But my role is really to ensure that both the Election Act and the Election Finances Act, that the provisions in there that are adhered to. So, you know, if there are things that go a little sideways, we do have some investigative powers and some opportunities to ensure that the election is conducted in accordance with what's expected from all Ontarians.
Okay. I know one of the, well, let me put it this way. Back in the day, if I recall, you used to have enumerators come around, they'd knock on your door, they'd take all the information, make sure you're on the voters list, and that's how it worked. Sheldon, would you put up this screen grab of this newest thing? Okay, you guys have got an app now. Everybody's in the app business. What is this app meant to do?
So this is our first foray into the digital arena, and what it's really meant to do is to really try and change the paradigm we have, Steve. You know, forever electoral management bodies at all levels, effectively what we do when the election is called, we take the voters list and we put it onto those voter information cards and we send them out to you. You know, when everyone gets them, they take a magnet and put it on their fridge. But really, that's the only way that we're communicating with you, and we really don't give you much any other choice. Now with this app, what we're doing is changing that paradigm. We're allowing you, the elector, to determine how you want to communicate with us. What it does, it allows you to determine, you know, do you want an SMS text? Do you want an email? Do you want both? Right? Do you want us to notify you when a new candidate's been registered in your riding? Do you want us to notify you the day before advanced polls start, or if there's an advanced poll opening close to you? Right? The app will also take all your voting locations, advanced polls, and election day. It will map it to you. It will show you the fastest and easiest way to get there. It will also provide you with an electronic, what we call voter information card, or VIC, you can take to the polls and we can utilize as a form of identification. So really, it's that first foray into this arena. It is a pilot for us. We are encouraging all Ontarians, you know, please sign up. It's on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Download it. Tell us what you think. As we think that this is, you know, we're well aware, obviously, that everyone has some form of a cell phone or some device. And this is our ability to move into that digital arena and really change that paradigm so we have more of a one-to-one relationship with Ontarians.
But if people are not tech savvy, they can still get enumerated the old-fashioned way, I presume?
Yes, absolutely. We still will be sending out the 10.6 million voter information cards. Those cards will come out very shortly after the writs have been dropped. And again, it'll have all the information on that card, all your advanced poll locations, dates and times, your election day poll dates and times, and information available for you to make the best informed choice of how and where and when you want to vote.
Okay. I used it yesterday. I signed up yesterday using your app. It's pretty simple. And yeah, it gives you lots of information, so for what that's worth. Now, invariably, even though you take every effort to ensure that nothing screws up election night, something will screw up election night. It always happens. What's at the top of the list of things that concern you?
I guess concerning right now is obviously, you know, where COVID is heading and how that's going to impact Ontarians' ability to vote. What I want to ensure Ontarians is that, you know, we have been working with the Chief Medical Officer of Health's office since September of 2020. We meet with them every month. Since January of this year, we're meeting every 2 weeks. They provide us great advice. We have already procured all of the health related materials. So what Ontarians will see is, you know, similar to when they go to their grocery store, the signage and the physical distancing on the floors. We will have that in every single poll. We've purchased masks, we've purchased gloves, we have hand sanitizer, we have Lysol wipes to wipe down the high touch point areas. We want to ensure Ontarians that we've taken every health precaution measure so that when they come to vote, it's a healthy, safe environment for them. They can get in, exercise their democratic right, get out quickly, and do it in a very healthy measure. So, you know, those are concerns. The other issue that we certainly saw federally during the federal election, staffing is a concern right now. I would encourage, as I said earlier, all Ontarians, if you can give us a day, if you can give us longer. We saw there was a real challenge in some regions of Ontario in finding enough appropriate staff. So we've been working very diligently. Elections Canada has been great. They've provided us all the ED electoral districts that had some challenges, and we've already begun early trying to work a little extra hard in those areas, getting some additional ads out, working with many of the chambers of commerce to try and get the word out that we have these opportunities. They're all paid opportunities, so we want to get as much information out to Ontarians as possible to, come and help make democracy work.
Greg, are we any closer to electronic voting in the province?
At this point, not quite, Steve. I think we're still monitoring that and looking at that until, voting, I often get asked, well, if I can bank online, why can't I vote online? Banking is very different. You have a shared secret with your bank that you actually want to have, right? So if there is something that happens in a bank, you can go to the bank and you can swear your declaration and they can reinsert whatever funds that were inappropriately taken back into your account. Voting is entirely different, right? One of the sort of core covenants of our democracy is secrecy of the ballot. You don't want me to know how you vote, right? So right now, what we haven't been able to determine is a solution that ensures the integrity and the security of the system. We're keeping monitoring that, but I really think when this will change is when there is an acceptable digital identity that is widely utilized and widely accepted. I think at that point we might see a little bit more movement in that area.
I ask because, if you are blind, or if you are physically disabled, or if you are immunocompromised or afraid of being in crowds because you don't want to get COVID, those are all pretty good reasons that would keep you away from physically attending a polling station. But if you want to exercise your franchise and you're in one of those buckets, what do you do?
So we have several options for individuals in those areas. First and foremost, on May 5th, the day after the writs are issued, we have a program called Home Visits. Where in fact we will actually come to an individual's home who they might have some incapacity or they might have some disability that makes it very difficult for them to come to the poll. In those circumstances, we'll come to your home, we'll help facilitate the vote. Even some of the changes we've made to that program in relationship to COVID, we now can facilitate that almost curbside. So if they're a little concerned about us coming in physically into their home, we can actually facilitate that coming to their door and facilitate the whole process without actually stepping into their residence. The other thing that we've improved this election, we have a piece of technology. It's called assistive voting technology. It's available from May 21st now, and it's actually available on election day in the returning offices. And what this technology allows, if someone has some form of a disability, it has sip and puff technology, it has paddles, it has a tactile device for those who are visually impaired or blind, and it allows them to vote completely independently. And it still produces a paper ballot with a mark that's completely indiscernible. And we encourage, we're working with a number of accessibility groups to ensure that they have all of that information, where that's available, when that's available. So depending on any of those groups that you highlighted, there is a means for us to exercise the right to vote. And we just want to make sure that all of that information gets to them so that they in fact can make the best informed choice as to how to vote. Any
guess as to how many people might avail themselves of that service?
It's the one program, particularly Home Visits, that we established this in 2011, and our numbers have been going straight up over the last 3 elections. As the population ages here in Ontario, obviously we're going to see some forms of likely slightly higher disabilities. So we've seen a huge increase in that. We're moving the what we call the AVT program to election day. So we provide even greater access to that for Ontarians, because like you said earlier, a lot of Ontarians do want to vote on election day. They want to wait until their informed choice, on election day itself.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you want to wait. I always want to wait till the last second so I can hear absolutely every shred of information to help me make my decision. But are we talking here hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people that avail themselves of this? Do you know?
We're definitely talking thousands.
Thousands. Okay.
Definitely.
Gotcha. Okay. Again, just take me behind the scenes a little bit, if you would. And that is, from the last election, which was 2018, how often do you meet with, and I don't even know which cabinet minister you would meet with in the government, to say, here's what we'd like to see happen. Here's what law here's how we'd like to see the law amended. Um, you know, do you have to negotiate with the government on that kind of thing, or can you just tell them to do it and they'll do it, or how does it work?
So, as an independent officer, I don't report to a cabinet minister. I report to the entire legislature. And when I wish to speak to the legislature, I speak through the speaker. So, I will write my reports. In the fall of 2020, when I could see that COVID was, coming about, I wrote to the government at the time and the entire legislature, made some recommendations to them. Some of those facilitated themselves into Bill 254, which was introduced and passed in the spring of 2021. The other means that, after every election, I have to write a report on, how the election went, what was good, what was needs improvement, and where there are legislative reforms. I also do an annual report. So I do have the opportunity to speak to the legislature quite frequently. The government will take up some of those recommendations and put those in place. When we saw in Bill 254, a number of the recommendations I had made were enacted to help us with this upcoming election this spring.
Okay, I'm just doing some fast math here while we speak, and I'm looking at the number of people who voted in the last election. And I got here 2.3 million people voted for the Conservatives, and almost 2 million voted for the NDP, and 1.1 million voted Liberal, and about 250,000 voted for the Greens. So 2, 4, 5, 5.4, 5. Fewer than 6 million people voted, and we have 10.7 million eligible voters?
10.6 million eligible this election. Last election, we had 10.2 million. So Ontario continues to grow, as you're well aware.
But I wanted to make a point about turnout. I mean, is it my imagination, or does turnout stink in this province?
Well, turnout is fluctuated over time. Back in 2011, I think we actually went below 50%. This last election, we were about 57% turnout. So my role is really to ensure as many Ontarians know when, where, and how to vote. The why proposition, though, is really quite honestly shared. It's shared with the political leaders. They set the policies and the platforms under which they would hope to govern our great province. Shared with the candidates. They provide perspective locally to their constituents. It's shared with you, the media. I do a number of media events, and I often will say to them at the end, make sure that you're promoting the importance of voting in a healthy civil society. And then ultimately, it's shared with the voter themselves. And in our great democracy, they get choice when and where and how to vote, or if to vote.
Last question. If we had 57% turnout last time, obviously you'd like to see 100. We're not going to get 100. What's a reasonable target to expect for this election?
Well, as I said previously, Steve, we plan for all 10.7. A reasonable target probably would be 60%, or above. That would be a healthy turnout and an engaged electorate. And we would encourage all Ontarians, please get as much information as possible so you can make the best informed choice on how and where and when you wish to vote.
Gotcha. Greg Essensa, Chief Electoral Officer, Province of Ontario for Elections Ontario. Thanks as always for making a visit virtually to TVO tonight.
Thanks very much, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.